Hey, this is Dylan Fry, the Real Estate Guy, here to be your guy for any real estate needs in the Kansas City area. Today, we have a special guest on here. We have Jessica Walker with the WW Connect Home Connect team, and she's powered by EXP. We're going to get into a lot of good information about buying in Kansas City, whether you're selling in Kansas City, some different real estate tips, what's going on in the market. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff today, so you need to stay tuned and hear because she's going to have some great information, maybe about how to market your home, make sure that you're selling it properly. Also, if you're looking to get into real estate, how you can come be a part of her Home Connect team or different options that you have in the real estate industry if you're really interested in getting into it. With that being said, if this is your first time to the channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and then also hit that little bell so that you'll get future notifications of any of the videos we're doing with local realtors, local business owners, or go check out some of our videos with some local business owners. They may be able to help you out. But with that being said, let's get into it. Jessica, give me a quick introduction of who you are as a person, how you got into real estate.
All right. Well, first thing I tell people is I am a wife and a mom. So I have 5 kids and I'm a full-time realtor. My husband's actually stay-at-home dad. He's running the investing side of our empire here.
There you go.
And is home with 2 kids and we have 3 in school. And then full-time realtor, do about 50 deals a year and love it. Love helping people buy and sell.
That and people doing 50 deals a year, that is impressive. And that takes a lot.
It does, which is why I became full-time. I used to be full-time stay-at-home mom with real estate on the side, and it just became too much, and my income was way outsourcing my husband. So we're like, hey, this just makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the natural progression that you want to get into if you're getting into real estate, is that eventually that becomes your full-time situation, whether you've got your partner and you're both getting into it, or like you said, you guys are expanding into investing as well. So I'm intrigued by that. What are you guys doing? What are you investing in?
Right now, just rentals. It's a retirement plan because as realtors, you're self-employed. You don't have a retirement. And so we had our first house that we moved out of. We've kept that as a rental. We've bought a second one that is a rental. And then at the moment, I mean, this year with the interest rates being higher, it is harder to get those numbers to work. So we're looking for more off-market deals. We'll do some flips.
There you go. Have you guys done any flips in the past?
No, not fully.
So that is the market that I play in.
Is it?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
So it helps me work with investors. I have flipped 4 or 5 houses now.
Okay.
And actually have a pretty good scheme. That's not a scheme, but I have a pretty good process of finding different people and then also making sure that I have the right kind of contractors. I don't know.
Yep.
If contractors are
that.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the right people, like I had an investor call me the other day and he's like, hey man, the contractor that we had, that they ended up finding this guy, ended up coming in way cheaper on their price that they wanted to do. And he just hasn't showed up to the job for 4 days. And I'm like, man, that is crazy. Like, and so I'm like, do you want me to call him? Because at this point because I'm going to end up reselling their house. We ended up finding it and closing on it. They have about a 2-month turnaround and then they want to flip it back out.
Yeah.
And so every day that they're missing,
right. That's money.
It just pushes it back.
Yep.
And they have to pay interest on all that. And that's the hard part, is once you start paying interest, I know that happens a lot with builders, is they have all this interest accruing. So then people think, oh, well, the longer the house sits, the more that they're going to come down. And they really don't have that as an option.
Right.
Because now they've paid this interest in. Now their holding costs are getting heavier and heavier and heavier. It's hard.
Yeah.
So have you worked with, so are you looking to get into flips as well?
Yes and no. So really our interest is in rentals, is in long-term holds. But with the numbers working right now, we're like, hey, let's do some flips on the side, have some good contractors, make sure that we have those in our pocket. And then when numbers start working again,
and then you can scale it.
Rentals. Yeah.
I mean, so I have a buddy out in Illinois that has ran his flip business and his rental business kind of coincide the two.
Exactly.
And what he does is he'll do a few flips a year, and he also has these rentals, and he'll make sure that he'll get them up and rolling, and then make sure that they're rented to good people and they've got a quality background on the rental property. And then he'll go sell both of them and go buy apartment complexes and bigger rentals. So that way it makes sense. The numbers make sense as you get into those bigger deals. It's just hard to come up with the cash for those bigger deals unless you've got other stuff to sell.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, let's get into the home buying process. What do you feel like if people move into the Kansas City area, what should they be looking for when they are looking at homes in Kansas City? Say they're coming from the coast or anywhere else. What do you look for when you're working with out-of-state buyers?
So I actually work with a lot of out-of-state buyers, a lot of relocation. When I first hear that they're an out-of-state buyer, I have a Welcome to Kansas City packet that I've created for all of the different areas in Kansas City, and it goes over like schools and neighborhoods, fun family things to do, restaurants, things like that. And so we just talk and get to know, okay, what really are you looking for? Are you coming here because of a job? And so do you want to be in a certain radius of that job? Are you coming here? A lot of church friends are moving here and they're looking for land. So if you're looking for land, how close do you want to be to certain things? And so we talk a lot about that.
Well, because it varies very quickly, whether you're buying land close to the city and the further out you get, the cheaper it gets. But again, you get further out.
You get further out. And so really it's all about their budget and how close they want to be to things and what they want to do with the land.
Yeah. So do you see a lot of people what are they wanting the land for? Like, is a lot of it because they want to do more of a hobby farm or they're actually wanting to do, okay.
There's a lot of homesteading families.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot since COVID, is that people want to get to somewhere where they can kind of be more self-sufficient and and so there's intriguing things out there that you can offer, whether like people looking, solar's been a huge thing that people have been doing now. I know, what was it the other day that I see? Somebody had, I'm losing my train of thought on what it was. It's kind of like a boiler system to where it was a little bit more self-sufficient.
Okay, yeah.
But there's a word for it. I just cannot grab it in my head right now. But you're seeing a lot of people are going into that, whether they want to make sure they have enough land or where they want to make sure that the homeowners association, if there is one, it allows them to have a garden, allows them to have those things. And you really got to pay attention to those things because that can get, if you're a realtor and you're looking for a property, you can find out very quickly that you're going to stick them in a spot to where they don't want to be if you don't read all those HOA guidelines and everything.
Even if they don't have HOAs, just if they have restrictions. There was a 10-acre property in Polo for a little while that everybody was interested in. It was a great price, right? But they didn't allow chickens or horses or anything, even though it was 10 acres.
Yeah, so. And those guidelines are so that I remember the property you're talking about.
I was like, I'm sure you do.
and those ones were so crazy because it's out there in the middle of nowhere out on this 10 acres, and they basically restrict you from doing anything.
Yeah, you can't do anything with it.
And I mean, it showed because that price originally I think it came out in like $10,000 an acre, and now I think it ended up selling for like $3 million. Well, if it even sold, I don't remember if it actually sold, and that's a big thing is those restrictions will handicap you sometimes. And I know I've got a lot of investors that look at buying land and maybe splitting it up.
Right.
And that's a big thing too. You got to know what the county restrictions are, because whether you're talking Clay County, Clinton County, I work more in the Northland, so in Caldwell County, and there's different restrictions in each one on how you can specifically break up land to put houses on it.
Yep. How many kitchens you can have on land.
And there's like a minimum requirement of square footage for building a house. So I've seen people, they're like, hey, I just want to build a small house and I'm going to build a big garage. Or something like that. And I'm like, well, you still have to build a certain square to be able to get it approved, which is crazy that on your own land, you have to end up having it go through those guidelines. But they're trying to keep people from building homes and then never doing anything with them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So people looking at selling homes in the Kansas City area, what are your big things that you like to do to help market them?
Oh, we do a lot to help market them. I have kind of a tiered system. And
Okay.
so it really just depends on what their goals are, whether they want the most money or the fastest, the easiest. Of course, we're going to try for all three of those wrapped into one. But they can choose, like, commission-wise, hey, if we want to pay this much, we'll get these things. So everybody gets, the professional photography, professional staging. I go in and I will actually tell them, so here's the price. If I took pictures tomorrow and we put it up tomorrow, this is the price that we could get for it. Pretty confident if you want to sell it this weekend. But if you want to sell it for this price, just do these few things. Or if you would like to get this price out of it, it's possible. Just do these few things. And so I'll send that recap email to them. I just sent one yesterday, and it had, we could get between about $350 to $410 for their property, just depending on what they wanted to do for it.
So what do those different things look like? Are they having to make repairs to get to that 410, or what are?
Yeah.
What
So if they wanted to get to the 410, it would look like, replacing the carpet, repainting, and maybe adding some like granite on the kitchen countertops and in the bathrooms to make it feel more updated.
Well, and people don't realize how much that little stuff does because they're like, oh, I'm not going to get my money back out of it. Or the one common thing that I hear all the time is like, well, I'll let the next homeowner pick out carpet. They know there's going to be a carpet. We'll put a carpet allowance in. And it's better for you to just replace it. Even if they're going to come in and rip it out, they're going to come in, there's so much different. And if you were looking at selling homes, I encourage you, go out and look at some of these homes. Like if you're selling a home, go walk through some of these homes, go look up open houses, go see the things that you see when you walk into these houses, because that's the same thing everybody else is going to see.
Yep. And even just scrolling through like on Zillow or something, I had a seller once and I told him, look, to get this price that you want to get, we can do it, but you need to at least paint your kitchen so it looks updated, because it was the old honey oak. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know if I want to spend, the $10,000 to do it that. And this was a $700,000 price point. So
correct.
Totally worth it. And I was like, you're looking to buy homes in Texas. Tell me, when you look at a home, he's like, oh yeah, if the kitchen isn't updated, I don't even look past the third picture. Like, that's exactly what people are going to do with your house.
Correct.
And so he updated it. We sold it in 3 days over asking price. And he was like, you're right. I wouldn't have even scrolled through and looked at my own house. Yeah. Because that wasn't updated.
Well, and people don't think about that because they've been living there so long, and then they think, oh, my stuff is awesome. But then when they go to somebody else's stuff, they're like, it's not that great. Right. And you have to get out of that mindset of, well, my stuff is awesome. And you have to get into that space where you're catering to, people always say, hey, well, I only need one buyer. Yes, but you got to cater to everyone. And because you don't know what limitations each buyer is going to have. And if that buyer comes in and they hate that kitchen, now you just lost them. Now somebody else comes in, they hate the non-updated bathroom or something. And it's a trickle down effect. And what I always want to do is get as many buyers in there as possible, because that helps drive up the price.
Yeah. Yeah. It used to be last year I could sit down and have a talk with someone and be like, you don't need to do anything. It'll sell. Really, it would. Yeah. But this year we're getting back to, no, let's sit down. Let's have a strategy session about this. What price do you want? Okay, then this will get you that price.
Correct. We got to have a full-on marketing plan.
Yeah.
And that's what people should be looking for when they're looking for a realtor, is not necessarily just somebody that's going to list your house and put it in the MLS. You've got to look for somebody that has a marketing plan and can show you a history of executing that marketing plan.
Right.
Because if they can't, your house is going to sit. The average home price, the last time MLS statistics came out, was up above 39 days.
Yep.
On market. What that tells me is there's a lot of, now it's starting to trickle down to even the realtors that are doing their job, doing the marketing plans, everything. It is starting to drive up prices. Or not drive up prices, drive up that timetable that houses are sitting. So you have to be very specific on what you're doing and have a full on plan of, hey, this week we're going to do this. This week we're going to do this. This week we're going to do this. And it's going to push a lot of realtors out of the business because they don't know. One thing I found is sometimes realtors don't have great communication skills.
Right.
And if you don't have great communication skills, and now you're having to communicate week in and week out, and their neighbor's house just sold in 3 days, and their house isn't selling, and now we're 3 weeks on the market, what are you telling them each and every week? Are you just avoiding them? Because if you're avoiding them, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. No, we send out a weekly update email and phone calls and texts throughout the week, obviously. But if their house is on the market for a little longer, it's, this is all the marketing we did last week. Here were the results. This is the marketing we're going to do this week. So
you're sending them a lot of statistics as well. Everything how many clicks they're getting.
How many clicks they're getting, how many showings were in their price point, and so what percentage of those showings we got. What other houses, they get a market update every week. So what other houses in their area have come up for sale, which ones have gone under contract, things like that.
Well, and that helps you build that. One, it builds that relationship through the communication, but it also helps you understand why your house necessarily isn't selling, because now you can see the different things that is intriguing people to buy those houses. Yeah. Like, hey, maybe your house is a 2-story. There's something going on that you can't necessarily fix, but maybe it is a situation where, this one had an updated bathroom, and you call that agent, and that's agent to agent communication is huge. So you call that agent, they got theirs under contract. Oh, we had multiple offers. Well, what are the differences between the two properties? Oh, this one's updated, right. This one's not. They got multiple offers. Let's go ahead and do some updates. Maybe we will get some people back in here.
Yeah.
I think that is huge, being able to read the market and see what's going on with everything. You have to be able to do that for your clients, and then you have to be able to communicate it to them.
Yeah, communicate it to them and really show them. Like, I'm not going to go to a client and just be, hey, we're listed too high, we need to lower. They need to know the reasons why, and usually they come to me. And they say, like, oh, I saw the other houses that had this, that mine didn't. And that's in my report, like, oh, it looks like this house, and they had blah, 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 and they were this price and everything. So then by the time, if it is too high, because sometimes people want to go for that, and I'll always shoot for it. But if we don't find that one person who really loves the house, if your house is too high on market value, they're usually coming to me and saying, oh, I understand why.
And that's the thing, is it's not the realtor's fault that your house isn't selling for that. Unless they just stick it in the MLS, they don't touch it. Like, then there's a potential that you have some issues there, but still it's going out to a bunch of people that do see that, and they're out there looking in the market. So hopefully they're working with active realtors that are seeing that on the buy side. But it comes back to, you have to have empirical data. You have to have other homes selling for the same prices. So when you're communicating with them and giving them those different market updates, they're seeing, hey, these houses are selling for a little bit less than what mine is, so we're probably overpriced. And then they can come to that conclusion on their own,
right? As
opposed to you haven't talked to them in 3 weeks and you show up and you say, hey, we're overpriced. We need to drop this about $10,000. And they're like, why am I spending $10,000? Why don't you spend $10,000? Like, because now their mind is, that's their money.
Yep.
Like, they should already have this. And a lot of times people oversell in the initial interview. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that gets them a listing, but that doesn't mean it gets them to the closing table.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you're communicating really well. You also, if you're out there and you're selling a home, make sure your realtor is communicating with you really well.
Yeah.
Like, ask them questions. If they can't answer them, you might find a new realtor. But with that being said, what things do you feel are affecting the market? Interest rates suck, obviously, right. But what are the other things that you feel like are affecting the market right now?
There's still low inventory of homes, and so yes, interest rates are higher than what we were used to the last couple of years. They're still not as high as they've been.
Correct. But let's be honest. I mean, they're as high as anyone that is in their 25 to 38, 40 has seen their entire adult life. So I've gotten into that argument. The lenders that have been around for the last 20, 30 years, they're like, oh, I've seen 13%. Right. And I'm like, yeah, but I never have. Uh-huh. Like, the highest I've ever seen is 6.5 before this. And most of my adult life, it's been lower than 5.
Yeah.
So it's still a situation where people are getting used to it now, but they're still like on their back burner. They're like, yeah, I expect it to go lower, even though I sold financial services for a long time, life insurance policies and different other things to where investment products. And the entire time I was selling those, I was like, guys, if interest rates stay this low, we're going to go broke as an economy.
Right.
Like they just can't be that low. And for anybody to make money on their money, interest rates can't be that low. And so now that they've raised up a little bit, I'm like, I don't see them going back down as fast as everybody else does.
Right.
Like
I mean, okay, people don't like this, but I love what it's done to the market. It's returned to like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, if someone wanted to buy a house, we'd look and we'd find 10 that fit what they wanted. And we'd look at our schedule and we'd say, okay, it's Monday, you have this going on Monday and this on Tuesday. Let's go Wednesday at 11 and we'll go look at these houses. And then they would choose one and I would get them that house for a great price. And now, so the last 2 years, it was like you had to just jump.
correct. And you had to go about 30 to 40, maybe $100,000 over.
Right. And so if you were at a job, too bad. I'll go video the house for you, but you're going to miss it if you are at work.
You better call in.
Yeah. And my life, I couldn't schedule anything because who knew when a house would pop up that one of my buyers wanted to see.
Correct.
So it kind of just messed with everybody's life. And then everybody was frantic and buyers were making decisions that they regret. Yeah, sellers were making off great, but then they had to go and buy again. And they're like, oh, this is what's going on. And so you're taking them completely as is, over appraisal value. You just have to jump in and take it. So now the market slowed down just a little bit and I love it. There's some that, yeah, if it's priced right below market value, it might go that first weekend. But
Correct.
Most are staying on 7 to 10 days. And so you have time to think about it, go home, sleep on it.
And you should be able to do that.
And then, so it's great for buyers. It's great for realtors. My life is getting back to order, less chaos. And it's also great for sellers because, hey, prices are still up from what they were even last year.
Yeah.
And so
it went up 10% in August.
Yeah. And so your house is still selling for more. It's still great for you. There still aren't as many homes as we need on the market. So yours is still going to sell. So I feel like it's just great for everybody right now.
Correct. I think it is great for everybody right now. I think next year it's going to get hectic. It's my opinion because, like I said, I don't see interest rates going down and staying down for very long. But next year's an election year.
Yeah, right.
So I do see a dip, and I see it being a flood.
A flood, yeah.
I mean, the refinance market's going to take off because everybody that's bought in the last 2 years is going to start doing those. Then you're going to have buyers that have been sitting on the fence. They're going to be like, "Oh, we've got to jump right now."
Yeah.
And it's going to get crazy again for a brief second, I think, then it's going to level back. I think it's going to level back out, and like you said, this is the market that everybody wants to play in because now you can, as a realtor, go out and show multiple houses and you actually have houses to show people.
Yeah.
Even though inventory's low, they're not flying off the market the same way.
Right.
And then you can be more picky and choosy a little bit about what you specifically want because like you said, I mean, I had a client that was like, "Hey, we're just gonna do this." I was like, "That's a terrible idea. Like, let's not, because you're gonna be mad. You're never gonna use me again." And I think that's one thing that agents, it's going to affect their long-term relationships if they weren't like that with their clients, because now their clients are in this house. Yeah, they may have an awesome interest rate, but they way overpaid for that. What that was worth, and then they made all these compromises. What I do with every buyer I work with, I sit down, hey, what specifically are you looking for in a house?
Right.
What are your non-negotiables? Because then if we get into a situation where it's a bidding war, or you're like, you've been waiting on the market for 3 months and we haven't found the perfect home for you yet, and you're like, hey, we're just going to go buy this one. And I'm like, guys, that has a non-negotiable. Like you said, you didn't want a split level. Why are you going to do that? And they're like, yeah, no, you're right. We're just getting anxious.
I convinced someone last week out of one. I was like, people think that as realtors, we're just greedy and we're going to just sell you whatever house you want. But if you have ethics and you're like, no, you've told me over and over again that this is what you want, I know that you're settling on this house. And I don't want you to settle because I know, and I sent her a list of all the houses that have sold. They just barely started. So the houses that have sold in the last 2 months that fit exactly what she wants in her price point. I said, I know it's out there. Look at all of these. One is going to come up.
We just got to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have time. She has till December. Said, let's wait.
Yeah. And if you're, and then sometimes, I mean, people will end up making decisions, but you just have to be open with them and talk them out of those different situations. I had a similar situation. We were sitting in a house and she was like, I'm buying this. And I was like, I mean, you can.
Yeah, go for it. I will help you buy it if you want to.
You can, but this house is terrible. Like, let's not do this. And the inspector was like, no, this house is terrible. And she's like, but I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, because that was like her third inspection. And I was like, I understand that, but they had done a lot of hidden patchwork.
Right.
And
the lipstick on a pig house.
Yep. And the inspector caught all of it. And here's the thing is they had stuff that we had seen on before we even went out there. And we were like, hey, I kind of pointed these things out. And I was like, are you sure you still want to make an offer on this one? And she's like, yeah, no, I want this one. I'm like, all right. And then the inspector came out and they had went in and put spray foam, Expandafoam in all these different cracks and stuff in the 3-day window that we had the inspector coming out. And then it's Expandafoam shut it was terrible. They had Expandafoam shut the cellar door as well. So we couldn't get into there to check anything. And I was like, yeah, this tells me there's an issue. So we are running as fast as we can from this thing and eventually got her talked out of it. But she was like, no, I still want to do it. And I'm like, this sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen for somebody.
Right.
But so tell me some stories. What's your favorite experience you've had since getting into real estate? What are your who is your favorite clients to work with? You don't gotta give me names. Just give me.
I have a lot of great clients. I love it when there are referrals and then they just become friends. So a lot of them, like, we just would go out to dinner and I'd hang out with them with our kids or whatever. And so they're a lot like that. And it's hard to choose favorites. I would say one of my favorite experiences, though, with it is I don't know if I should be saying this. So my in-laws were pretty against realtors.
Really? Well.
And especially their daughter-in-law, who's a mom, working as a realtor, that they're pretty against. So there were a lot of kind of no-nos there. My sound went out a little bit. One side. Okay. Oh. As long as it's fine in here, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Anyway, there were a lot of no-nos there. They were pretty against it. My husband started asking, like, okay, is this really what we should be doing? I'm a very religious person, so I felt very strongly over and over again from God, like, I am supposed to be in real estate. Like, my calling is to help others find where they need to be, whether that is finding a house to live in, or maybe it's an agent and helping them discover real estate or other careers, just helping others find where they need to be in life. And so I felt over and over I was supposed to do this. And through the years, I would say that was about 4 years ago, through the years, I've helped about 8 other family members relocate here to the Kansas City area.
There you go.
And each one of them has told them, like, okay, it's just been so amazing having someone here that we know and that we trust and that will listen to us and what we want and not push us in the wrong direction, but also is patient with us. And so through the time, it's helped convert them, like, okay, Jessica is supposed to be doing this. There's a usefulness in a realtor. Like, maybe realtors aren't all that bad.
Well, and I promise you they're not. But it is a perception that people have to fight through. And when I first got into real estate, I came from an insurance background. And I had different insurance agencies. And one of them I came from, like, they had rolled out new policy changes and we were denying claims left and right. So I knew what it felt like to be the hated guy when you walk into the party. And my broker was like, oh, like, yeah, realtors are hated too. And I was like, whatever. And I was like, every time I go to like a social gathering, the realtor is the hot topic. And the insurance guy, everybody comes with their questions, and they got a bad story with an insurance agent.
Yeah.
A lot of people have good stories with a realtor. So it can be worse. And when I switched over to real estate, I was like, I understand what they're talking about, because there is so many bad situations out there that happen where not because the realtors are bad people, but there's so much, it's so easy to get licensed, for one. Mm-hmm. And then it is so easy to find a brokerage that'll work with you. And there's minimal training out there inside of these brokerages. So they're not necessarily telling people exactly what they're doing, or maybe an agent doesn't know the different guidelines that are going on throughout a contract. And because a lot of our job deals with contracts. So if you don't understand the contracts, you need to figure out how to understand the contracts, because a situation's going to come up where you have a client and that contract is going to come back, and you're going to have to use the words in that contract to either get them their earnest back or get them out of a deal that they necessarily didn't get in or didn't need to get into, or something came up. Or I had a situation where the propane, they had to pay for the propane and stuff like that. And you got to know exactly what they have to do, because otherwise sometimes you'll be talked into doing stuff that they don't have to do.
Right.
And so I think that's why realtors get a bad name sometimes, is because there's so much misinformation out there, and people have worked with somebody that didn't know that, or there was, especially during the COVID times, when you could just list a house and do that and it would just sell, or these agents were going out with these buyers and they were like, yeah, you got to offer $30,000 over. And I feel like there's still some agents out there that are still doing that say that the market's still there, because I've had houses to where we've only had one offer and it was $15,000 over.
Yeah.
And
you're like, thanks.
And that is exactly what I said. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. Uh-huh. But you got to know the market, and you got to know how to talk to, again, it comes back to the communication thing. And that's where the value comes from. It doesn't come from, hey, can I stick my house in the MLS? I need that. Like, you can call a listing broker and have them do that for pretty easy. If you want a realtor, you have to find somebody that has those communication skills, has good, like, be in the religious base, and you are here to help people. Mm-hmm. So you're not ever putting somebody in a situation where they don't want to be, and that's not going to help move their life forward.
Right.
And having that good why and morale is why you've been able to change that perception.
Yeah.
Because it very well could have went the other way, like, very quickly, if you didn't have those, or people had bad experiences and stuff like that. Then you have to listen to the I told you so's. But because you have that moral base, I think that's awesome. That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
And here's something that I think is a huge misconception from the buyer standpoint, is they feel like if we have to show them way too many houses, that they're wasting our time. Because I get that all the time. They're like, oh, we don't want to waste your time.
Right.
We don't want to waste your time. And I'm like, guys, I love going out here and looking at these houses with you. Like, it's awesome. Yeah, you can go by the open house and do those things or whatever. But when I see how you react to different, like, that helps me be able to find the perfect home for you. Uh-huh. Because if you react to this kitchen and you really love it, but there's this other thing that you don't like, then now I know, like, I'm sending you houses that have a similar kitchen, and then they definitely don't have this, because that's going to be the thing that keeps you from wanting to want to buy this house. That helps me become a better realtor as well.
Each house gets you one step closer and helps the buyers figure out what they like. It's not a waste of time ever.
Yeah. And you have to look at a bunch of different houses. I mean, if you look at your first house and you buy it, that's awesome. But that's rarely the case.
Yeah.
What do you think your average buyer looks at? How many houses do you think they end up looking at?
Oh man, that changes. That really changes. So I had one this last week where we looked at 2, and number 2, she loved it. And then I have someone who's closing this week, and we've been looking for 2.5 years. And so it's all dependent on, like, what is your time frame? Okay, if your time frame's a week, we'll find you a house within a week. It might not have everything that you love, but we'll find you a house within a week. But if you have 6 months, then let's find that house that you're going to be super excited about and have no regrets with.
Yeah. Motivation's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So, and that helps drive that a lot, because if you're motivated to buy a house in the next week or if you're not motivated to buy the house in the next week, then we can be a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
So motivation does change that entire process. And I would just say if that's your motivation and you want to get into those houses, but if not, take your time. I mean, look at now, if you find the perfect one and you fall in love with it, buy it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, make sure that you're getting into each and every house that you can. And I encourage people that are out there looking to build a house, go tour some houses. You're going to see some cool stuff that you wish if you don't, maybe you go afterwards. Prada Homes was one thing I did earlier this year.
Right.
And a lot of people were coming in there and they were like, yeah, we're thinking about building. We just want to come check this out. Mm-hmm. And there's so many times they walk out with, oh, I loved this and this and this. Like, go to those open houses. You're going to find cool stuff like different cabinet styles and things that you just didn't even think of. And it's going to help you build the house that you actually want to have. Take a list. And I had my aunt and uncle do that earlier this year because they're looking at building a house. They broke ground, about a month ago? And they're building a house. And I was like, just go tour some other houses. You'll figure out very quickly what you want and what you don't want.
Yep.
So, well, I think you've done a great job of illustrating why people should use you, I think, throughout this. But before we get off here, why should people come to WW Home Connect? What are the benefits of working with you guys?
I would say the main thing is that we care. Like, you're a person to us. We want you in our lives from now till forever. And so I don't want you to have any regrets. But not only that, I'm good also. So I know the numbers. I study them up. I know what to say to people. I'm good at connecting with people. I'm good at negotiating and getting what you want. But then also keeping you just, like I said, having no regrets, getting where you need to go. That's what I'm here for. Yeah,
and I would say that those two things go hand in hand. So you knowing the numbers makes you good at what you're doing. Because that's my big thing is anytime I'm talking to anybody about whether we're buying this house or we're selling this house, it is based on empirical data. So I've done the research. I have a team as well that I have in place that does different steps of this, and I have reports that I'm going to show you that back up every statement that I'm saying. And that gives you the confidence to go forward in a negotiation if you're talking to another realtor or you're talking to a potential buyer or anybody like that. You have to have that to back it up. And if you have all that information, then it makes it really easy to be really good.
Right.
So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to it. I think there's going to be some great information that people are going to be able to grab onto and see, and some things that they need to look for when they're looking at moving to the Kansas City area, or you're looking to move anywhere. You have to find good people that are good at what they do, that are going to be able to help you find the house that you want to be in.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. If somebody is looking to get a hold of Jessica, how do they get a hold of you?
Anywhere. I'm everywhere. So my number is 816-301-7187. Texts are usually best because I might be doing something like this and not get your phone call, but I'll always return it when I can.
Always text your realtors. It's so much easier. They will get back to you. And I promise they have so many things going on throughout the day, and they're trying to do everything. And that's the thing about real estate is you are constantly building a brand around yourself, and so you are always out doing these things, networking with other people in the business. So make sure you send those texts. We will respond. If we don't answer the phone call, send that follow-up text and we will get back to you as soon as possible. I really appreciate everybody watching this video. We've got some great information. If this is your first time to the channel and you liked what we had to offer here, make sure you hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button and then hit that little bell so you'll get future notifications of any of these interviews we're doing, whether it's with other realtors, with local business owners, or we're just doing neighborhood videos and showing you some different houses that are on the market. I appreciate everybody. Thank you.